Namaskar and welcome to Issues Before Parliament. The budget session of Parliament starts from the 31st of January. The first part of it goes on till the 13th of February, and then the second part commences from the 10th of March and will conclude on the 4th of April. Being the first session of the year, the President of India will be addressing both houses of Parliament. It will be the presidential address, which will be debated in the House. And also the economic survey will be tabled. This will happen on the first day of Parliament. And then, of course, the big day, which is the 1st of February, is when the Union Budget will be presented. But it's also a session in which a lot will be discussed. And the issues brought forward by the opposition and even the government, we are going to discuss that with the help of a few noted parties as well as members of Parliament. Representing the Bharatiya Janata Party is Member of Parliament Aparajita Sarangi, and speaking on behalf of the Aam Aadmi Party is Anmol Pawar, spokesperson. Tehseen Poonawala is a political analyst who will give us the point of view of the Congress Party. Let me start with you, Ms. Sarangi. How would you look at this session of Parliament from the Treasury's point of view? What are the expectations in terms of the government?
A very good evening. I'm eagerly looking forward to the fourth session of the 18th Lok Sabha, which is going to commence tomorrow, that is 31st of January. There would be 27 sittings of this fourth session of 18th Lok Sabha, and as you know, there would be two parts of this fourth session. The first part would be from 31st of January 25 to 13th of February 25, and the second part would be from 10th of March 25 to 4th of April 25. So I think, as has been told by Shri Kiran Rijiju, Honorable Minister of Parliamentary Affairs, there will be 16 bills and 19 businesses listed as of now. But obviously, I must tell you that the JPC, the Joint Parliamentary Committee on Wakf, has submitted its report to Honorable Speaker today, and I had the pleasure and privilege of being a member of the said JPC, and we hope and expect that Honorable Speaker may consider to bring that particular bill also for debate and discussion in the Lok Sabha. We have huge number of bills, very important bills pending, and I must list out some of them for the knowledge of all concerned. Number one, the Insurance and Banking Laws Amendment Bill, and number two, Merchant Shipping Bill 2024, Coastal Shipping Bill 2024, Carriage of Goods by Sea Bill 2024, the Rashtriya Sahakari Vishwavidyalaya Bill 2024, the Immigration and Foreigners Bill, Official Secrets Bill, PMLA Amendment Bill, Higher Education Commission Bill. Many are there. I need not list, I need not read out the entire list. But I can only say that the government is looking forward to very constructive discussion and dialogue on the floor of both Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. I am very sad to inform you that the winter session of the Parliament was a complete washout, if I can say so. In fact, as far as the Lok Sabha is concerned, the productivity rate was just 54.5%. We could sit for only 43 hours. And as far as Rajya Sabha is concerned, at that point of time, it was just 40% productivity rate. A very dismal performance. It was because the opposition created such a ruckus that things could not actually be done positively. And this time, I really hope and pray that good sense may prevail upon the opposition leaders, and we have high productivity rate. We are able to discuss all the bills, and we really look forward to hearing the views, or rather taking down the views of the opposition leaders, opposition MPs with regard to all the bills.
Indeed.
Last time, I must tell you that most of the bills had to be passed by majority vote from the Treasury branches side, because there was nobody on the other side. They had staged a walkout.
Indeed. So we ourselves, I mean, people of the country also would be looking forward to good discussion on the bills, ma'am, before they are passed. Let me interrupt you briefly here.
Very much ready to hear everything from the opposition leaders.
Indeed, we'll turn to them right now. Speaking on behalf of the Congress is Tehseen Poonawalla. Mr. Poonawalla, so the idea is that the opposition has been disrupting Parliament, at least that's what the Treasury benches say. But in terms of the bills, 16 bills, many of them, including the Wakf Amendment Bill that is being presented, what kind of discussion would you like to at least present in the House?
At the onset, the late Sushma Swaraj and the late Arun Jaitley ji used to always say that the House belongs to the opposition, but running the House is the job of the government. For the first time in the history of independent India, we are seeing a government that runs away from actual discussion. They will speak nothing specific on the floor of the House and will take every opportunity, the government, to try and disrupt the House so that there is no discussion on the House. Let us look at what is the country facing today. Tax terrorism. Today the middle class is burdened with taxes. Today the RBI has cut the GDP forecast. The FIIs are flowing out of the country. The stock market is crashing. Savings are at an all-time low. Personal loans are at an all-time high. People and women are mortgaging their gold. As the Honorable Prime Minister said in his rally during the elections to politicize it, Sona chala jayega. Women are actually mortgaging their gold to try and make their house run. And none of these issues will be discussed in Parliament because the government will have no answer on it. There are several issues of geopolitical importance. What's happening in our neighborhood, Bangladesh to Syria. Manipur, for example, on our internal affairs. Other issues that need to be discussed. But all that the government will try and do is try and create ruckus in the House so that there is no discussion.
But should you also be discussing the legislative agenda, Mr. Poonawalla?
The legislative agenda, even last time, every single demand made by the opposition to discuss and under the relevant rules to be discussed was thrown out by the Honorable Chairperson of the Rajya Sabha and the Honorable Speaker of the Lok Sabha. They did not allow discussions to take place in the relevant rules. Point number 2, in the previous Parliament, almost 150 MPs were thrown out and bills were passed. Is this how bills are going to be passed?
Okay.
The opposition isn't allowed to speak in Parliament, and that is the fundamental problem, that the government wants to run away. It has no answers on policy. It has no depth on how it wants to deal with the economic volatility and situation, and therefore all that the government will indulge in is a blame game and rhetoric.
Okay, Mr. Pawar, what issues will the Aam Aadmi Party be raising in this session of Parliament?
See, over the last 75 years, we have seen that every government which came to power, they have exploited the middle class of this country. The middle class has been reduced to an ATM. And the harsh reality is that they are a victim of tax terrorism. That is why for the first time in the history of this country, Arvind Kejriwal ji, our leader, has raised the concerns of the middle class and has requested the central government to dedicate this upcoming budget for the middle class of this country. We have made 7 demands. Our first demand is that the education budget must be increased from 2% to 10%. Our second demand is that the health budget of this country should be increased to 10%. The income tax slab must be increased from 7 lakh to 10 lakh. Our fourth demand is that there must be provision for the senior citizens. There must be strong retirement plans for them. Our fifth demand is that earlier they used to get free rail services.
Okay.
That provision has been withdrawn by the government. It must again be implemented. Our sixth demand is that GST on the essential commodities like milk and dal and etc., all these kind of items, it must be removed. And our last demand is that there must be fee cap on the private educational institution. Scholarship must be given to the students of this country, क्योंकि जब हमारा युवा पढ़ेगा तब हमारा देश बढ़ेगा. On the one hand, the government is waiving off the loans of the Punjipatis to the tune of 16 lakh crore. They are slashing the corporate tax from 30% to 22%. And on the other hand, they are not in a position, even after 75 years of independence, to provide basic amenities, which even our Article 21 of the Constitution guarantees to the Aam Aadmi of this country. So the government must focus on all this. Other than that, the government must reduce the GST to 50% and the tax also must be slashed to 50%. And they must also bring a law saying that these waivers of loans to the Punjipatis to the tune of lakhs of crores will
Fair
not
enough.
be done in the future.
So,
तो ये आम
you're
आदमी
like-
के बारे में
you-
सोचे,
you
and this is the easiest excuse they have that the opposition
Mr.
doesn't
Pawar,
let the House
you
function.
have raised several issues, and so has Mr. Poonawalla. One of the points that both of you raised is something called tax terrorism. Could you please define what you're talking about? After all, you know, I mean, this is a rather strange term. The country is taxed at a reasonable rate. And I mean, the government is looking at progressive taxation and has been bringing out reforms in taxation for several years. In fact, that is our country is one of the fastest growing economies, seen as a country which is pro, you know, business in that sense, and ease of doing business is reasonably good. Mr. Poonawalla.
Well, these are perceptual issues, Mark, but on the reality on the ground is separate. Every single high network individual, every single, and the brain drain in India is stunning. India is the biggest exporters of millionaires in dollar terms out of the country, and the main reason every one of these millionaires and high network individuals are leaving this country is tax terrorism. Now, you want me to define what's tax terrorism? Let me tell you what is tax terrorism practically on the ground, not with the vocabulary that is used by the government to try and showcase its grandeur. Your cameramen, your workers here in Doordarshan who work hard, who earn their salary and whose tax are deducted before they get their salary in their bank account. If tomorrow they are one hospitalization away from a bankruptcy, these people who are working hard today to spend 100 rupees, the tax that they pay, the income tax plus the GST is actually amounting to, and what they're getting back in return amounts to nothing. Amounts to nothing. Nor is the quality of healthcare, nor is the quality of education up to the standards of which the percentage of tax that we are being taken. They charge tax on Western country rates, which is fine, but the services are not of the same standard. Today in Delhi, in North India, there's a cancer pandemic, there's a pollution pandemic. Who's responsible? Where is the tax paying money going? Where is the accountability for? And you say we are the fastest growing economy. The RBI has cut the GDP growth of the country and it slowed down. Today, we have the highest unequal growth in the country.
Okay, fair enough.
The
Let's
top
bring in
1% continues to get richer. The middle class is absolutely for mocks and has no place to go and no place to turn to.
Let's turn to Ms. Sarangi. What would you like to say to both these gentlemen in terms of not really
Certainly.
of a defense, but really of the statement that the government, the country is the fastest growing economy. There seems to be, you know, employment, job creation also happening. Women's employment is taking place. There are so many other issues that perhaps are not being, you know, highlighted enough.
We are looking forward to a very progressive budget which would definitely impact very positively the lives of different segments of people in the society, whether it be youth, women, poor, farmers, anybody, wherever, whosoever is, the life should be positively impacted. That is basically the intention of this budget of Madam Nirmala Sitharaman, and I must say that she is a very experienced hand. Under her stewardship, we have become the fastest growing economy. Let us not forget that. And there is the guidance of Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji. And I must like to put forth before you the January 25 edition of Global Economic Prospects Report. It just came and it says that India is poised to retain its position as the fastest growing major economy with a projected growth rate of 6.7% for 2026, 2027, 2028 and onwards. So this is not you or me saying, it is a very credible magazine which has brought out this after a very good study. So I think we are extremely confident that we would be, the government would be presenting
Okay.
a very positive budget, and let us wait and watch what comes. But I can only say that all aspects of the economy, all aspects of the population, of all the segments of population would be duly touched. There would be focus on infrastructure, there would be focus on agriculture, healthcare, education, rural development, women empowerment and employment opportunities for the burgeoning youth population. So I think
Right.
everything would be there. It would be a holistic budget. It all depends on us as to how we look at a particular thing. Everything depends on our color of spectacle. So I think we all need to be very positive about the whole thing, and I'm very confident that things would be, would be very positive.
Okay.
Now, having said all this,
yes,
let me tell you that there are issues which actually impacts a country's growth trajectory, and it would these issues will definitely impact our growth trajectory too. So we just have to wait and watch. There may be some geopolitical tension, some kind of trade disruption. Sometimes it happens.
Yes.
And the looming tariff hike in the US and
so
climate
all these
change.
issues affect the
These
economy
are some
clearly.
Of the
Right,
issues which actually impact a country's growth trajectory.
Indeed.
Despite all these apprehensions, I'm sure we are very confident that we would be moving ahead with positivity, and it would be a holistic budget impacting positively all kinds of life.
Ms. Sarangi, you also mentioned at the start about the Wakf Amendment Bill. Now, in the JPC, all the 44 amendments that were suggested by the other members were rejected, and the bill the JPC passed it 15-11, if I'm not mistaken. So in this, what do you expect from the opposition? I mean, you talked about disruptions earlier. Do you find that this is an issue that perhaps the opposition would probably disrupt Parliament over, unless you find some way of walking to the other side and working things out?
Give me a few minutes to talk about the entire procedure of the Joint Parliamentary Committee. I was a member of it, and I consider it a pleasure and privilege. See, this particular Joint Parliamentary Committee was constituted on 9th of August 24. The first meeting was held on 22nd August 24, and since then till yesterday, when the report was handed over, we conducted 38 numbers of meetings. More than 286 organizations / stakeholders had been consulted, and we went to different states to talk to organizations and elicit their opinions regarding the Wakf Amendment Bill 2024. And we did not want to leave anybody out. The opposition members in the JPC were actually, their views were given a lot of respect, and I tell you that there were 44 clauses in the Wakf Amendment Bill 2024. Now, these 44 clauses were put to debate. We had 112 hours in hand, and we debated. Each clause was discussed threadbare. And let me tell you, in fact, all my friends are sitting here listening to me. I must say that everybody's views was given due respect, as I said. And ultimately, as far as the NDA members are concerned, we gave 24 amendments in respect of 14 clauses out of 44 clauses. And the opposition members gave, in fact, they gave amendments in respect of 43 clauses out of 44 clauses. Whatever amendments we gave, let me tell you, I say with all conviction at my command, most of these amendments were in line with the thoughts of the people whom we had met. So there was no question of any other kind of intention, or rather having an ulterior motive. The entire intention of Wakf Amendment Bill is the rectification of the mistakes that have been there all through. So I think we want better and efficient management of Wakf properties across the country. We want transparency. We want more income from the Wakf properties so that the poor Muslims can benefit. And I think it is a highly transparent way of, it would be a highly transparent way of handling the Wakf properties. So I think everybody should welcome. I hope there would be constructive debate on the Wakf Amendment Bill in its revised form, which the JPC has presented to Honorable Speaker today, and I'm really looking forward to it.
I'm sure that everyone is looking forward to that debate in Parliament. Mr. Poonawalla, you wanted to come in and express some views. Yeah, go ahead.
The Indian economy for the quarters between July to September has slumped to 5.4%, which is way below the RBI forecast of 7%. All right, consumers' demand is weakened, private investment is sluggish, government spending has, which was an essential driver, has been pulled back. Indian goods exports have been struggling. It's 2% of the total world exports that we're doing. FMCG companies today are reporting lower sales. In fact, their sales are tapering down. Salary bills at publicly traded companies have not seen a rise. Okay. Share market is crashing, but all the honorable member of parliament can speak about a Wakf bill and justice for Muslim people. That's all they have. This is the finance budget. They are the questions that the middle class of India, the opposition is asking.
Due respect, that's not all she's speaking about. I mean, I asked her a specific question.
It is very clear, and it is very clear. The agenda is Hindu-Muslim, not the middle class, not what we've spoken about, not the sluggish demand. Manufacturing is not at pre-COVID levels, not this. Today, for the first time, your service sector industry is struggling. Your service sector industry, for the first time post-COVID, is struggling. No answers at any of them. Any questions on this, the answer is Wakf bill. And watch it.
Go ahead, Mr. Pambar. Go ahead.
We have been debating for the past 1 hour, and our leader raised the issue of middle class for the first time. Despite that, none of the BJP leaders have ever given a statement or assured us that they will work for the welfare of the middle class. Not even a word has been uttered by them. This reflects their intent. They are not concerned about the middle class. They are concerned about their Punjipati dost. Otherwise, they would have assured the middle class that their farm loans will be waived, their home loans will be waived. भाई उनका लोन माफ करने में इन्हें दिक्कत नहीं होती, मिडिल क्लास का लोन माफ करने में इन्हें दिक्कत होती है. The ones who are paying 50% of their income as taxes, उनके बारे में कौन सोचेगा?
Ms. Sarangi, what would you like to say? I mean, the middle class, obviously, the smaller businesses also are part of, the BJP's support base to a large extent. I mean, a party would not be in power if it didn't have the support of a large section of society. And clearly, I mean, at least what the opposition is saying is that this is a neglected lot.
I said the budget will take care of all segments of population. Now, I understand why AAP is so much worried about the middle class. Now, let me tell you, in the last election, in 2020 election, there is the population of Delhi, whatever it is, 45% of the population is constituted by the middle class. I think this is for the knowledge of all concerned. Now, in 2020 election, about 54% of this middle class had supported AAP, and we got the support, BJP got the support of 39% of the middle class population. Now, it turned in 2024 when the election took place. We were 50% and they were 32%. 32% support to AAP and we were 50% support of the middle class. And that is why they are worried. In every dialogue that you have with any AAP worker today, they will talk in terms of support for the middle class. They feel jittery. Let me tell you that the middle class has confidence in the policy and the vision and the working style of the Prime Minister Modi. And that is why the middle class is coming this side. We as a party are concerned about everybody, all segments of population, including the middle class. Right. So I think the nervousness of AAP is well understood.
Ma'am, also the vision that the Prime Minister has presented is of Viksit Bharat by 2047. It seems that the budget also seems to work towards that kind of a long-term vision.
Absolutely.
But, I mean, to what extent can one expect, more local time, the here and now issues rather than looking forward to, vision for 2047? The issues, for instance, that Mr. Tehseen Poonawalla was talking about right here and now today.
I can say with all conviction at my command that the ultimate goal of all the initiatives of Prime Minister Modi is to ensure that by 2047 India becomes Viksit Bharat. We are in the list of developed nations, and that is why everything is actually, kind of designed to achieve that goal. So I think this budget you will find to be very positive. This budget you will find you will see that it is holistic by nature. It would be a very mature budget, and I'm sure the entire nation will appreciate it.
Sure. Mr. Poonawalla, would you like to come in here?
No, the Honourable Member of Parliament hasn't answered any of the question my colleague from the opposition or I have raised on specifics, or for example, he raised on how the middle class would get certain amount of release, whether there'd be tax write-offs, whether there would be loan
questions will be answered on the floor of the
House.
Exactly.
These
questions
you're just
are
raising
not
the issue.
answered
There's
on
going to
TV
be a
channels.
debate on the floor of the House.
But the answer to that on this
is not the platform for answering questions.
Vision for 2047. Can you give us some roadmap? Is capex going to be increased? If so, how do you keep fiscal deficit under control? Some sort of a roadmap for us. Will you give a tax relief to the middle class? Will you sort of bring in the GST Council some regulation?
All discussions will take place on the floor of the House when the budget is presented.
The House will come up with an excuse that the opposition is not letting the House function. When we'll speak about the common man of this country, when we'll raise their concerns,
there is a difference between Sansad and
Sadak. Not letting the House
we cannot be talking on the Sadak or on the TV channels.
Indeed. In fact, maybe Mr. Poonawalla, you would like to talk about this. A lot of the issues that one raises are issues that are discussed and debated in media, in studios. The floor of the House is also meant really to discuss the bills. And the Honourable Member did mention about 16 bills, 19 issues of business. And a lot of that seems to be disrupted by the opposition wanting to discuss issues that could actually be discussed on the street, as ma'am says, rather than on the floor of the House. What do you think? I mean, shouldn't you be discussing the bills clearly?
Let me put this across on behalf of the opposition, and you may feel free to add. Last time, the joint opposition had certain demands. They wanted a discussion on Manipur. They wanted a discussion on pollution. They wanted a discussion on Sambhal. They wanted a discussion on Bangladesh. They wanted a discussion on Syria. Which of these are issues that are discussed on the street and should not be discussed in Parliament? And I also think it's extremely offending. We just celebrated our Republic Day to call citizens of India discussing issues on the street as some sort of a downward trend. People of India have liberty to discuss every issue which the Parliament should take up. Ultimately, the Parliament, the Hallow House, in which the Honourable Member speaks, she represents we the people of the street. She represents us. How it's say, oh, you can speak on the street, as if discussing Syria on the street should be discussed on the street and not in Parliament, as if my genocide in Bangladesh should be discussed on the street and not in Parliament, as of
I'm afraid we are running short of time, so let me get a final word in from Mr. Pawar. Go ahead.
If the Honourable Member of Parliament can promise us that they'll discuss the issues of the common man, I assure her that they'll find us standing at the forefront.
Okay, ma'am, would you give that assurance?
Yes, of course. I think just 2 days to go, and we would all be listening to Madam Nirmala Sitharaman, and this is going to be a very positive budget, and let us await a very constructive debate.
Okay, we leave it there. Thank you very much to Aparijita Sarangi, Member of Parliament from the Bharatiya Janata Party, Anmol Pawar from the Aam Aadmi Party, and Tehseen Poonawalla, political analyst, speaking on behalf of the Congress Party. Thanks all of you for presenting a clear idea of what we are going to expect in this rather important session of Parliament, a session where we get the budget and we also, as common people, look forward to the budget because all of us have expectations. But let's hope that, you know, the issues, the economic issues are not drowned out in some of the other issues which are raging and also important. But of course, the government has the prerogative to get its legislative agenda passed. That's how a government functions. And without that, you know, we are at a standstill. So let's hope for the best from this session of Parliament. Thanks very much for watching. Namaskar.